welcome back to my YouTube channel. I remain the global math teacher. So, on the continuation of our series on calculus, we started with differentiation and we did power rule. Now we are moving on to product rule. So, and what does product rule says? Product rule says that differentiation of a product, that is the multiplication of a particular entity by another entity, simply says that. So for instance, now we have two entities here, u and v. So differentiation of uv with respect to x is simply u dv dx plus v du dx. U, simple to memorize, right? When you have your u, when you're starting off with your u, your d will definitely be the other entity. U dv dx plus, when you're starting off with your v, the other entity follows, du dx. So let's quickly look at some examples here to drive home our point. Now, we have example 1 here. Example 1 here says if y is equal to 1 minus 2x all multiplied by 3 minus x. Now we have two entities here. We have entity 1. Let's call 1 minus 2x to be u. Let's make this rather u and let's make this v. So let's write it here that, okay, let u be equal to 1 minus 2x and let our v also to be equal to what? 3 minus x. You could see very well that from the formula we have here, let me use my lighter. From the formula we have here, you can see very well that v has to be differentiated. That's why we have dv dx. Also, u has to be differentiated. That's why we have du dx. As you can see that. So now for this that we have here now, that since we have our u to be equal to 1 minus 2x. So what I was about to say initially was that from your formula here tells you exactly the parameters you need. Meaning you need your u, which is always given. You need dv dx, which you have to get yourself. You need your v, which will be given. Then you also need du dx, which you need to get yourself. That was the initial thing I wanted to say. So from what we have here now, we can see that we have our u, we have our v. So we need du dx, we need dv dx. So let's get our du dx and our dv dx. Now, if u is equal to this, what is du dx? Du dx will be simply what? From our power rule. Remember that differentiation of constant is what? 0. 1 here is a constant, so I don't need to stress myself. The only thing I'm differentiating now is negative 2x. So if I differentiate negative 2x, I will simply have what? Negative 2. Now, dv dx. dv dx is simply what? 3 is a constant. What I'm only differentiating is what? Negative x. If I differentiate negative x, what will I have? Remember that this is a power 1, then 1 times negative, which is here, that becomes negative 1, and then this becomes minus 1, then 0, it goes out. This by 0, it becomes 1. So my answer is just negative 1. So now I have my parameters complete. I have my u, I have my v, I have my du dx, I have my dv dx. What do I need to do? Slot it into my formula and do the needful. So if I'm to slot this into my formula and do the needful, what would I have? This would simply be what? So dy dx, so let me just write it here. Dy dx will simply be what? What is u? U is 1 minus 2x. What is dv dx? dv dx is what? Negative 1. There's a dot here, dot, negative 1. Then what? Plus, the formula says plus, what is v? V is what? 3 minus x. What is du dx? Du dx is simply what? Dot, negative 2. So my final answer will just be, if I multiply this by negative 1, this by this becomes negative 1, this by this becomes what? Positive 2x. So it becomes positive 2x, then minus 1, right? Then plus what? Plus What about this? This is if negative 2 multiplies what I have here. Let me use a bracket here. Negative 2 multiply what I have here. Now this becomes minus 6. Then this becomes what? Plus 2x. So my final answer will simply be what? Starting off from here. 2x minus 1. This is what? Um minus 6 plus what? Plus 2x. So my answer is simply what? This plus this is what? 4x, and this is what? Negative 7. And that's my final answer. That's that about that. Now let's quickly look at the next one now. We also have a product here. Power of 3 is multiplying x minus 4. So in this case now, this is my u, this is my v. You can try to start with v before u. It's fine. Nobody is calculating that. It's a product. Product is commutative. So it's very, very fine. So if u is this and v is, let me write that down. Let u be equal to what? X to the power of 3, and let v to be equal to what? X minus 4. Remember, what do I need? I need du dx. Du dx here is what? Just what? 3x to the power of 2. And dv dx here is simply what? Is simply just 1, because negative 4 is a constant, and the differentiation of a constant is what? 0. We've established that before. Now let's now slot in what we have here into the formula and get our needed answer. So dy dx is simply what? Remember, u, what is u? U is x to the power of 3 dot, what is dv dx? dv dx is what? 1. Okay, this is, we are even lucky it is not so long. Plus, what is my v? V is what? X minus 4 dot, what is my du dx? Du dx is simply what? 3x to the power of 2. So if I simplify this now, this becomes what? X to the power of 3. If I multiply this by this becomes plus what? 3x to the power of 3 minus 12x to the power of 2. So my answer now is simply what? If this comes together, this becomes what? 4x to the power of 3, then minus 12x squared. And that's that. Now, the last question here, let me give you about 1 minute to try. 60, 59, 58, 57, 56, 55, 54, 53, 52, 51, 50, 49, 49, 48, 47. Boom, I'm doing it now. So let's look at the last question here now. So we have y equal to x plus 4 all multiplied by x plus 2. Remember, this is my what? My u and my v. So we're starting off with what? Let u be equal to what? X plus 4, and let v be equal to what? X plus 2. So what is my du dx? Du dx is differentiation of u with respect to x. Remember that constant is what? 0. So this is just 1. So dv dx is simply what? Also just 1. So now let's slot in our parameters into the formula. So what's the formula again? U is what? So dy dx is simply what? U is what? X plus 4, then x plus 4, dv dx is what? dv dx is dot 1, then plus, what is v is x plus 2 dot, what is du dx? Du dx is simply also just 1. So if I bring this together now, this becomes x plus 4 plus x plus 2, and my answer is just what? 2x plus 6. And that's that about that. Make sure you like, you comment, you share, and also subscribe. See you in my next video. I remain your global math teacher. Bye.